Welcome back. With less than a month until health insurance premiums are set to skyrocket for millions of Americans, Democrats today unveiled a plan to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits for 3 years and prevent premiums from spiking. Look.
The bill, a clean 3-year extension of ACA tax credits that Democrats will bring to the floor of the Senate for a vote next Thursday, and every single Democrat will support it. Republicans have 1 week to decide where they stand. If Republicans block our bill, there's no going back. We won't get another chance to halt these premium spikes before they kick in at the start of the new year. Those insurance premiums in January will land like a hammer blow on the American people.
But the Democrats' bill is likely to fail, as many Republican senators have already made clear they don't support any extension of the ACA tax credits. And with Republicans still not offering a health care plan of their own, hope of a bipartisan agreement to avoid the health care cliff coming after the holidays appears to be dwindling. Joining me now to discuss all of this from Capitol Hill is NBC News senior national politics reporter Sahil Kapur. Sahil, thanks so much for being here. So talk about the strategy here. There you have Leader Schumer proposing this 3-year extension that he knows is likely dead on arrival.
That's absolutely right, Kristen. And the reason is senators see across both parties here that there's no deal to be had. And I'll give you both parties' perspective. Democrats say they've been eager to cut a deal for months now. They've offered a 1-year extension of this funding, a 2-year extension. They've been willing to negotiate on things like income thresholds and making reforms and restrictions on this amount of funding. They even shut down the government over it, had the longest ever government shutdown in American history. And Republicans were simply unwilling to negotiate on that. And I spoke just in the last couple of hours to Senator Angus King, who cut that deal to reopen the government because he was hopeful for a health care deal. He told me he no longer sees a path to that, in part because Republicans are demanding stricter abortion restrictions, which is, unlike the other thing that I mentioned, a deal breaker for the Democrats. And the Republican perspective is this funding was passed under President Biden on a party line vote by Democrats. This is tied to the Affordable Care Act, a law they've never liked, that they've never supported. And they're not, when they have the trifecta, going to do something that, in their view, is propping up Obamacare. The problem is, Kristen, at the end of the day, we can talk about, process and procedure and bipartisanship and whatnot on the Hill. There are millions of Americans who will suffer if nothing happens here. And the Republicans' problem is they do not have an alternative.
But here's the thing, Sahil, there have been some bipartisan proposals floated today. For example, Representatives Kiggins and Gottheimer offered their own framework, which would include a 2-year extension of the ACA subsidies. And there have been others. Why aren't these gaining traction?
Yeah, there are a couple of bipartisan proposals, mostly in the House, for an ACA funding extension. This new one from Gottheimer and Kiggins includes 15 Republicans and 20 Democrats. But the answer to your question, Kristen, is that it's the same group of 12 to 15 House Republicans that is who are the only ones who want to do anything about extending ACA funds. Most of them are in swing districts. They will feel the political pain most acutely, and they're, they have the most political incentive and impetus to want to do something about this. But outside those 15 Republicans, which, remember, it's a small fraction of this conference, the vast majority of them want this ACA funding to go away entirely, which is why Speaker Mike Johnson candidly has not given these members the time of day on the floor. He has not given any indication that these bills are going to come to the floor, that he's going to allow an ACA funding continuation in any form at this time.
So, Sahil, given that, what are the potential political implications for both parties?
22 million Americans are going to see their premiums increase, in many cases double. On average, double. It could be as much as tripling for Americans next year, just in a few weeks, starting in January, if nothing happens. So that would be a significant political hit to very likely the party in power, who tends to get blamed for this stuff in the same way that that President Biden and the Democrats got blamed when costs went up on their watch. Whatever they wanted to say about the reasons, they're the ones who ended up getting blamed. This is where I think Republicans are likely going to have to come up with a pretty good explanation for this if nothing happens from a policy standpoint. Kristen?
Yeah, the midterms are nigh. All right. Sahil, thank you so much for that great reporting and analysis, as always. Joining me now, today's panel, Julia Manchester, White House reporter for The Hill, Democratic strategist Joel Payne, and Michael Dubke, former Trump White House communications director. Thanks to all of you for being here. Julia, let me start with you. It just doesn't seem like they are going to be able to reach an agreement on extending these health care subsidies, unless I'm missing something. Do you think there could be an 11th hour off-ramp here?
I mean, I think there certainly is the incentive, obviously, for an 11th hour off-ramp for both parties. Obviously, of course, we want, you know, everyone who needs health care to have health care, have those subsidies if there isn't some sort of a replacement. But also, we know that Republicans historically have struggled on this issue, and you're already seeing Democrats trying to go on the offense going into the midterms on this issue of health care. And the comments that Speaker Johnson made to Melanie Zanona earlier today saying, relax, when he was asked about this, you know, I would imagine that Democrats are going to take that and run with it, because obviously when your health care could be in jeopardy, it's hard to relax about that.
Okay, so you take me, let's hear that sound actually. You are referencing our colleague Melanie Zanona did ask House Speaker Mike Johnson about this health care issue and the broader issue of affordability. Here's that exchange. Look.
We got more to do. But the problem was created by the Democrats, not this administration and not this Republican Congress. We're the ones fixing it. So I would tell everybody, relax, okay? Calm, common sense, competency. That's what we're demonstrating here every day. We're exactly on the trajectory of where we've always planned to be. Steady at the wheel, everybody. It's going to be fine. Our best days are ahead of us. Americans are going to be feeling a lot better in the early part of next year.
Mike, do you buy that argument, and is that the right argument for the House Speaker to be making?
I think you're absolutely correct that this is going to be a big issue in the midterms. And frankly, you know, if Obamacare was well put together, we would never need subsidies to begin with. So let's, you know, I think that's what Speaker Johnson was referring to. And what I find offensive is Minority Leader Schumer pushing a 3-year extension when he knows that Republicans aren't going to go for that. If he had gone for the 1-year extension to try to give some breathing room for everybody to figure out how we fix some of the fraud, how we fix some of the means testing, I think we would be able to do that. But it is beyond belief to me that either side can't come to the table when 22 million Americans could see some coverage go sky high.
Well, Joel, pick up on that point that Mike's making. I mean, Leader Schumer is offering something that he knows is going to be dead on arrival. Given that, if in fact this all does go over a cliff, is this going to be a pox on everyone's house, basically?
Well, I think Republicans have hard questions to answer about why something that would cover Americans and prevent health care for spiking for millions of Americans, even if it's on a 3-year basis, would be dead on arrival. I mean, that is for Republicans to deal with their constituents over, and I think Chuck Schumer and Senate Democrats are totally within their stead to do that. But I have 2 other observations. One, you know, Mike Johnson is a deeply unpopular speaker right now, not with Democratic strategists like myself, but with his own caucus. So he's got a lot of problems. He's taken on a lot of water. So I think it's very interesting that it'll be interesting if that clip comes back to haunt him a bit. Also, I think congressional Democrats would be in a much stronger leverage position had they not backed off of their government shutdown position from about a month ago. And I can tell you a lot of Democrats feel that way. If Democrats would have actually held strong and used the leverage at the time to force Republicans to come up with a solution on health care, I actually think that Democrats would have a little bit more credibility with their base. So, yes, I think Democrats certainly have an attack opportunity here, but they gave up leverage.
Maybe their base, but not the American people.
Yeah,
I mean, at that point, that's all that they were playing to was their base by keeping the government shut down.
I think the American people have said that this is an important issue to them, so that reflects.
I want to talk big picture a little bit, which is that, and this goes to something you were saying, Mike, which is at the root of this is Republicans saying that they feel like Obamacare is deeply flawed.
Yes.
Secretary Bessent was on Meet the Press several weeks ago and said that the president was going to make an announcement on a health care plan, something to effectively supplant or replace potentially Obamacare. We never got that announcement, Julia. Do you have any sense that Republicans are working on a plan, something beyond concepts of a plan?
So we know that President Trump has talked about these direct payments, and he has floated that. And I think that's something the president does. He floats these ideas out into the ether, if you will, and tries to get feedback. I haven't heard of anything concrete. We know that next week he is going to Pennsylvania to talk about affordability. And I do think affordability and health care, particularly on an issue like prescription drug prices, certainly go hand in hand. hand. But I think, a good point you made was, or, what I've heard other Republicans say is, Obamacare wasn't put well together. The problem is, I don't think Republicans have figured out how to message that, because poll after poll that I've seen shows that Americans are very scared still about losing Obamacare. I think part of that could be because there isn't a clear alternative, but I think Republicans need to figure out how to message on that. I think they struggled with it, obviously, in 2018 and in subsequent elections.
I was just going to say, and I don't know Mike too well, although Mike seems like a nice guy. And, I've heard Republicans Mike speaking about this for the last 15 years. I actually worked for Harry Reid back in 2009 and 2010 when we passed the Affordable Care Act, and Republicans were saying the same thing back then. They were saying the American people wouldn't like it. Guess what? The American people do like it. They care about it. They care about their health care being affordable. Is it perfect legislation? No, because Republicans undercut it at the time, and they have done nothing since then to try to make it better.
Mike, pick up on that and talk about the intersectionality of health care and affordability.
Well, first of all, I think anytime you pass a piece of legislation without some members of the other party being with you, you're going to create flawed pieces of legislation. Both on the left and right, and you did not have votes from Republicans on Obamacare. First of all. Secondly, affordability and healthcare do go hand in hand, Kristen, because it's one of the largest outlays for an American family. So it's important, and Republicans recognize that, and they understand that, and that's why they want to fix it. There are Republicans working on a bipartisan plan, but it's not seeing the light of day.
Yeah, what about the messaging that we're hearing from the White House, and I'll go back to you on this, Mike, about affordability, where the president's saying it's a hoax?
Yeah,
is that going to work in the midterms?
It's not a hoax. I think what the president was reacting to are some other stories. I know he understands that he won in 2024 on the affordability issue. And I know others in the White House are very keen that he gets back on the road talking about affordability. So I think that was in reference to some stories and not necessarily that globally affordability is a hoax.
Joel, final point.
Well, one, don't erase Olympia Snowe, because she voted for that health care bill back in 2009. I think that Republicans, whether or not we can go through a history of Obamacare, Republicans have a problem with an affordability crisis, with health care being too expensive, and the American people thinking that they're responsible for it. Whether or not we up here think they are, the American people think they're responsible for it.
All right, well, one thing is certain. This is going to continue to be a big issue, affordability, one of the top issues for voters as we head more deeply into the midterms. Thanks, guys. Great conversation, Julia, Joel, and Mike. Really appreciate it.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.